I always end up saying, one of my favorite verses talks about this whenever whatever concept psychologically that I'm referring to. And so we just decided to make that a little more easy to find in the beginning. I'm just kind of talking, put the verse out there in the beginning that the psychological science uh, goes along with. And so here is today's. I've entitled it Use Fewer Words. And here is why that is a very important psychological construct for you and your life if you are the kind of person that suffers from what psychologists in the old days, when they knew what they were talking about. Now that's a long story, right? Because I think, don't get me started on some of the directions that the field of psychology has moved into, or portions of the field. But anyway, back in the old days, when psychology and the understanding of how how growth and healing happens was very, very focused on character structure, which is a really important thing in growing and thriving and getting well, both from a spiritual as well as a psychological perspective. That as who was it that said? Who said? What great philosopher said? Our character is our destiny. Well, the Bible puts it in a similar way. It says that the tree produces fruit, and the tree is the person. And if something's wrong with the tree, something's going to be wrong with the fruit. So if we got brokenness and misalignments and lack abilities and skills in some way, in the way that we're glued together, which is how I mean character. I don't mean it necessarily just moral, even though that's part of it. If we've got some cracks in there, then what happens is it manifests itself in the way that we relate and other things. And one of those characterological ideas or constructs or concepts that psychoanalysts have talked about over the decades is something called an aggressive conflict. An aggressive conflict. And what I said was this applies to people that have some kind of an aggressive conflict. And for certain, most humans have some sort of an aggressive conflict. Now, I am going to get, and you guys got to give me some feedback on this, because what we're talking about today is so deep, how deep you can go on this, and so important, and so I'm worried too theoretical that you're not going to like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. An aggressive conflict basically means that we lack what psychologists refer to as conflict-free aggression. Now, when I say the word aggression, many of you are going, well, I don't want to be aggressive, like an aggressive car salesman or something. That's not what we mean by aggression. And I'm talking about, like hurting somebody or anger or something like that. Aggression, in the way that I'm using it is energy to move something forward. And I think it's intricately tied with truth, because when we are speaking the truth, we're moving something down a path in a relationship or life, and we're defining things. And sometimes that is it divides things. Doesn't necessarily mean in a bad way, although it can feel bad to some people if they have conflicts. But if you and I are going to lunch and I say, I'd like to go here, and you go, well, I don't like pasta. Well, I was suggesting an Italian place. Well, you spoke the truth, and that divided us, right? That's not a bad thing. It means that it defined us. Well, that's what our aggression does. As we're speaking the truth, it moves something forward. We're closer to a decision. And truth is intricately involved in our aggressive drives. For example, the ability to be assertive. That's why sometimes when people take it and take it and take it and take it, they finally explode in rage because their aggression has gone bad. It's turned into toxic rage. It's turned into attack. Or if they're passive, it turns into sarcasm. But it's still the same thing. It's a drive to move something forward, and oftentimes related to asserting some kinds of a truth. That's why to be assertive is always the word that people use. You don't want to be aggressive, you want to be assertive. Well, same thing, okay, that I'm meaning. All right. It's also the way you accomplish a goal. It takes aggression to get up, establish a goal, and 6 months from now I want to be here, and I aggressively have to go pursue that. Now, here's what I mean by unaggressive conflict. Many people feel like, and they grew up in homes or they had relationships, when they exhibited their aggression, it got them into conflict with somebody. So when you say, no, I don't want that, somebody goes, oh, I thought you cared. Or when you say, no, I don't think I'm going to drop by for Christmas. We have some other things going on, but thank you for inviting me. Oh, I guess you don't care about family, do you? Oh, I guess we're not good enough. Or when you say no to somebody, maybe you even got attacked or abused. And maybe when you set a boundary with somebody, maybe they flew into a rage. Well, what happens is then the tool in your character that you would use to do that with, which is to speak the truth, that tool gets into conflict. Because now internally, every time I want to set a boundary, every time I want to say no, every time I want to speak a truth, I'm scared. So now I'm conflicted. Do I say it? I don't know. Maybe they'll get mad. Oh, or what if they don't like it? What if that makes them feel bad? Maybe it'll hurt them. So now I can't even function in my character, in my makeup, in my human capacities without conflict, and I'm no longer free. Big deal. So why do I call this use fewer words? Because many times, and here's what I want you to go think about. Many times, have you ever heard the phrase, no is a complete sentence? Well, no is a complete sentence. But many times, instead of someone saying no, they got to give 46,000 reasons and justifications and excuses and all this, because inside they're really, really anxious. And instead of saying, no, thanks for the invite, but I really want to stay home that night, or I really want to, but thanks. Well, no, gosh, but maybe, I don't know, maybe another time, or well, we got, we've had a lot of sickness recently, and the whole thing with the skin, and why don't you just say no, okay? Or why don't you just say, you know what, I don't like it when you do this. It hurts my feelings, and could you not do that? Just say it. Say it nicely. Say it with empathy and love. But what does it look like when you use too many words? Maybe the classic, and I want you to go watch yourself. The word just. Now think about this. Well, I was just wondering, I was just kind of thinking and about, I don't know, I just was just say it. The word just you hear a lot of times when somebody's feeling anxious and they're trying to minimize the impact of what they fear their aggression is going to do. Or, maybe if we, there's no maybe to it. It is actually what you're thinking. And it's actually what you want to say. There's no maybe, but we use maybe, don't we? And we kind of use it. And these minimizers, these extra words, and so we always want to show how the scripture talks about this. Jesus was very clear about this. Some people they might feel insecure about their position, or in an argument or in a discourse or something, and they start to add a bunch of stuff to it. And what did he say? He said, you don't need all these oaths. Don't swear by this or swear by that, or really trying to, use all this to get behind you, to make you stronger, to make your argument okay. No, he said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And he said, anything more than that is from the evil one, or from evil, or something like that. You can look it up. Where is that? It's in Matthew. You know what? I'm going to give you this verse because it's let your yes be yes and your no be no. It is Matthew 5:37, and I'm going to read it to you here. How about this? You're going to get a little church service here, guys, because I just love this. He says, you've heard it was said to people long ago, don't break your oath, but fulfill the vows to the Lord you made. I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it's God's throne, or by the earth, or Switzerland, or by Jerusalem, the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you can't even make one hair white or black. All you need to say, he said, is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this, he said, comes from the evil one. Think about it. Be yourself. Say it lovingly. But you don't need to back it up or justify it or minimize it. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes we don't explain things, but it is all in the motive. It's all in the motive. Sometimes it's good to explain things because it puts something in a context for somebody. But I'm really not talking about that. What I'm really talking about is when we use a preponderance of words because of anxiety or fear. So here's all I want you to do. I just want you to watch yourself when you're having to say no, having to set a limit, having to tell somebody you don't like something or whatever, and watch the tendency to use many more words than are needed. And then you might want to try cutting them down because it tends to be more direct and it tends to have more power. And I mean a good sense of power, which means impact in the ability to be heard. You hear this phrase all the time. Well, I got to find my voice. Good. Well, your voice may be getting lost in a lot of words. So part of finding your voice maybe is to just say it. Just say what you mean.